Welcome to ESPN College Football presented by Progressive. This is Athens, Georgia on a beautiful spring day. So why not play the G-Day spring game? Kirby Smart's team just won the national championship in each of the last 2 years, but he's going to have to do it with a new quarterback this year. Will it be Carson Beck or Brock Vandagriff? Good news is he's got another Brock, one of the best players in all of college football is back. Brock Bowers as his catch-all tight end, and he's got a brand new mascot. Boom! Makes his debut today as UGA 11. You're watching the SEC on ESPN. He's Matt Stinchcomb. I'm Taylor Zarzer. Alyssa Lang's on the field. Our eligibility will never run out to call Georgia games, but Stetson Bennett's eligibility to play quarterback for the Dogs is over. So who's the quarterback now? That's the big question.
That is the big question, and one that's going to persist well past today. But the interesting part is there are two pretty clear candidates in Carson Beck, who has the most experience, and then, of course, Brock Vandagriff, a dual-threat athletic candidate to play quarterback here at Georgia. Defensively, some new faces. How physical will they be here today? We know schematically we're not going to see a ton of innovation, but who shows up and who's going to rub some decals with these guys? And then, of course, the newcomers. They recruit very well here, and they picked up a couple of transfers that could have an impact this fall.
Between the hedges to Alyssa Lang with the head coach.
Coach Stinch was just talking about your quarterback room. All eyes on those guys today. How do you plan to evaluate them in this scrimmage?
Let them play. We want to find out what they can do in tough situations. So we're going to bring pressures at them. We're going to come after them. We're going to let those guys play. We're going to let them throw it around a little bit.
What do you want to see from your defense during a day like this?
Well, you're always looking for havoc and turnovers, no explosives, but I want to see them run to the ball, play with a little passion and energy.
I know y'all have celebrated plenty since that second national championship, but what's it like being back here with all these fans and alumni out here?
It's awesome. It's a great day. It's a great atmosphere, great weather. Should be a little hot. I like it. I want to see what we got.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, we like it too, Kirby, as we'll take a look at the rules the next couple of hours. Just like normal games, you have 4 15-minute quarters, a little shorter halftime, and the ball will be spotted at the 30-yard line. No rush on punts or field goals, and the clock will keep running. Oh, it's a Matt Stinchcomb dream come true. Hey, he's still here. He's not gone. He's not wearing pads anymore. He's a happy man, getting ready for the NFL draft next month.
Yeah, what's he got there? What are we rocking there today? Is that the polo? We got who knows what the NIL deal is post-play.
Out in the middle of the field, we get the coaches so they can get a good look. Kirby appears to be kicking off, but he won't.
That would be a trip, right? That's what we need to introduce to these spring games. Coaches kick off.
Have the kick return guys stand a little closer. Jared Zirkle kicks it to Dylan Bell, but Bell is going to take off even without the football and run back past the 25, and they're going to start here at the 30-yard line. So, as we all have been talking about the last few weeks, what's going to happen with this quarterback battle? We mentioned Brock Vandagriff. We mentioned Carson Beck. Here comes Beck. Should we throw Gunnar Stockton into this too?
Well, he's out there, right? And it's interesting because we were talking to some of the defensive players yesterday. Zion Logue even brought Gunnar Stockton up. They see a lot of him down there on the scout team. They've been really impressed. But Carson Beck gets the nod. And it was interesting because the coaches pointed out, look, a couple of seasons ago, he got the most reps. He was the number 2 behind JT Daniel before they made the move to Stetson Bennett in 2021.
There is no left guard on the field as Georgia is going to take a delay of game on the first play. And they do that to honor the life of Devin Willock, who of course passed away in that crash. It also took the life of Chandler LaCroix. Certainly we think of Willock, LaCroix, and their families every single day. This program hard, as you can imagine. Many of Devin's teammates are thinking about him and will be motivated by him this season in 2023, especially those guys up front. We'll talk a lot about those guys, but more on Beck. As you said, he's got some experience. He played in 7 games last season Stetson Bennett and the Dogs were blowing out so many opponents that it gave Carson a chance to get a ton of reps through 35 passes last year. And on the first play, he'll hand it off to Daijun Edwards. Edwards has been a finisher the last few years, Stinch. He could be a starter in this 2023 season.
You know, we were talking with Mike Bobo and Kirby Smart yesterday about that running back room, and as much as everybody focuses on the quarterback position, you know, the duty that lies nearest, we have to replace quarterback, but running back as well. Kenny McIntosh, I think, was largely underappreciated, the level of contribution he had in this offense. Certainly not in the football offices over here, but outside of the program. Who are going to step up the most in that offensive backfield alongside the quarterback?
Beck surveys the field. This is Cass Jones who makes the catch. Nice job of getting out to the sideline up to the 40-yard line where Javon Bullard makes the tackle. Well, you were talking about McIntosh. You got to replace Stetson Bennett. Here's some key losses for the Dogs coming off of the 2022 season. No Darnell Washington. Big O had such a great career. Broderick Jones at left tackle. Warren McClendon is gone from that line as well.
Yeah, Amarius Mims is a guy obviously we'll see today starting out at right tackle. Big Ernest Green got the nod to start at left tackle. That's a battle that's ongoing. But they rotate so much that there's a lot of starting experience at the tackle spot.
Fake to Daijun Edwards all day for Beck to survey the field, and Rosemy Jack Saint, there's a familiar face in the offense. A 17-yard completion with a lot of changes at receiver too, Stinch. Marcus is one trusty guy that's been here for quite some time.
And interesting too that they made a point to bring him up a couple of times and after the spring practices, that Rosemy Jack Saint has been able to build on his campaign from a season ago. We figure more prominently in the passing game this year potentially.
He had a great 2022, especially when A.D. Mitchell was injured. Beck will throw a floater, and he's got Bowers in stride, and Brock goes all the way down to the goal line. And it'll be marked out inside the 5-yard line. Darius Smith saved the touchdown.
So full slide protection, max protect. Nice clean pocket, but he's matched up with Darius Smith. That's a mismatch every time, right? So if you're Carson Beck and you're looking out there, that's certainly where you want to go with the football. As long as number 19's out in the formation for you offensively, it's probably a matchup that you like regardless.
You mentioned he beat Smith. Bullard is the one that saved the touchdown. There goes McConkey in motion. Edwards slips a tackle and dives down to the 2. Jamon Dumas Johnson, one of those linebackers, it's going to have to be the leader this year, or leaders, I guess, without Nolan Smith.
You know, you think about, a lot of people talk about Jalen Carter and the interior defensive front. Yeah, there's a little bit of turnover. The most solid spot, though, is inside linebacker for Georgia.
And Liam Badger's extra point is up and good. Arian Smith on a sweep takes it easily into the end zone. Red leads the black in G-Day in the early going. Beautiful spring day in Athens, GA. Arian Smith with the first score. Carson Beck with a nice completion to Brock Bowers to get them inside the 5-yard line. Smith did the rest. And the black team will get the football for the first time today. And they will continue to run from the goal line, just show off this talent and the speed. This is Makai Muse. And that's 98 yards. They're not letting them field the kicks, but they're letting them run for the goal line, Stinch. See what their kickoff team looks like.
You can see Coach Smart. He's walking back up saying, yeah, that's good. But we're going to start this from the 30.
Nice run. Now let's see the black team on offense.
That's exactly right. We're not making this a special teams exhibition. You could see right there, easily would have been tackled, was a tag off. It's a whole lot of extra running. But hey, man, you know, make it count, right?
Sophomore from Grayson, Georgia. Got some playing time last year. Brock Vandegrift's turn. Rolling out, throwing underneath, and getting drilled on the first play is Lawson Lucky. C.J. Allen coming in there to make the big hit. Incomplete.
We heard a lot about Lawson Lucky in those meetings yesterday. A guy that enrolled early, participated in all the bowl practices, and said they caught the eye of a lot of the veteran players because he was not scared to be physical.
Sophomore from Bogart, Georgia. Everybody wanted to recruit this kid a couple of years ago. Sitting behind Beck, Bennett, Daniels, and a bunch of others the last couple of years. He'll take off, show off his speed. Maybe this will help him win the job. He's onto the other side of the field down at the 47-yard line. That was obviously a big key of Stetson Bennett's success.
No question.
Is taking off like that. It's 23 yards.
It's a great point. I mean, it's definitely a factor. Talk about how you're going to decide who your quarterback's going to be, and it's something that the coaching staff and Coach Smart mentioned, that he's come to value the mobility at quarterback more and more.
Mr. Georgia a couple years ago in high school fakes the handoff, wants to throw the deep ball, and down there's Jackson Meeks. The flag comes in. E.J. Harris.
I wonder.
Pass interference. Defense number 4, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
The PI that comes out, I believe. You see him kind of grabbing Meeks as the ball's arriving. That ball was a good 6 or 7 yards overthrown. I'm not sure that the PI caused that much of the separation. Regardless, a free fresh set of downs.
So down near the 30, just a swing pass out here to Roderick Robinson, a true freshman from Imperial, California, an early enrollee.
One of the guys that you talk about the number of new faces in here, but these guys that have been able to be around the program enough to where it's not as if you're brand new. It's not as if you're just entirely fresh. You've been in the system enough, especially through the offseason. You're able to kind of ramp up your production. Another touch for Robinson inside.
It's down near the 22-yard line, and as you were saying, replacing McIntosh, they still have Milton, still have Dejon Edwards. Branson Robinson played some last year as well with a ton of carries. So there's 3 or 4 guys that they know they can count on that have experience, but his offensive coordinator, old/new offensive coordinator Mike Bobo has told us it'll be by committee, at least at first, going into the season. He goes in to the 16-yard line, tackled by Samuel Mpemba. He was a guy that the coaches were talking about yesterday. Defensive coordinator Glenn Schumann mentioned him several times. He's also a true freshman.
And what stood out to me in the description of Mpemba, how well-rounded he was. You know, that he can fit into the defense in a variety of different ways. And part of that's owing to his length. You see him at 6'3", 245. He got enough girth there to set the edge and play near the line of scrimmage.
Denylon Morizette around the edge, but is going to be marked out of bounds short of the 20, and he is tackled by Mpemba again. 6'3", 245, huh? He's got some lateral speed.
Like how he's able to redirect. So he closes down. You see the block go inside, so he closes down, stayed parallel to the line of scrimmage. Been able to show some of that explosiveness, that lateral agility to get out wide. You're trying to capture the edge. Mpemba did a great job of stringing that out and making the tackle.
He's a #1 edge prospect, according to some of the recruiting sites. Vandegrift, he's going to be marked down, as it was Kristen Miller that was back there in his neighborhood. Of course, you can't tackle the quarterback in the spring game, but Kristen wants everyone to know he could have if they allowed it.
They got to get frustrated, the defensive line guys. You're sitting there going, got there just close enough, right? Vandegrift's already been able to show his escapability. That time the left side of the offensive front broke down in their protection. You see 2 oncoming rushers to move Vandegrift off his spot.
3rd and 17, empty backfield. Vandegrift will swing it out over there to Miles Thornton, and he'll only pick up a few, and that'll be 4th down.
Great range by C.J. Allen. We're talking about some of these new faces. That time able to get all the way to the sideline. Speed more than anything else. You know, these guys, it's not like you're taking DBs and pushing them towards the line of scrimmage. You know, that's like back in the 90s, the FSU type defenses. You're talking about guys that actually have size that can flat out move and string out your offensive plays where you run out of room on the boundary.
And they also have to replace Podlesny, the kicker from last year. Maybe it'll be Jared Zirkle. This is from 42 yards away. And he sneaks it in there. Red 7, black 3, 6:17 to go in the first quarter on a beautiful spring day in Athens.
ESPN College Football is presented by Progressive Insurance. It's easy to bundle your home and car insurance at progressive.com.
There's Boom, and there's Arian Smith after his first touchdown of the day. Boom has big shoes to fill. I mean, Q just won 2 consecutive national championships.
Yeah, no pressure, Boom. Q, well, it's back-to-back great names for these dogs, by the way. Q, fantastic name. Worked out great. A couple of championships out of him. And then Boom, which you have to think has got to be some homage to Will Muschamp, Coach Boom, and that record, it's going to be tough to eclipse. Oh, wow.
Oh, a little flea flicker and then just an underneath pass that goes out to the sideline. Let's go down to Alyssa.
So I actually asked Kirby pregame if Muschamp, I don't know, had in his contract or something that the next UGA needed to be named after him. He was like, you know, I don't even know that a lot of people in here know about the nickname Boom. And I said, I find that hard to believe, honestly.
Yeah, maybe that was more of a Florida, Auburn, South Carolina thing than a Georgia thing for Muschamp.
I think it's the defensive coordinator at Auburn at the time, right? Where it was very emphatic Boom, followed by some other descriptors.
Beck rolls out wide open is Oscar Delp.
Uh-oh.
Maybe we'll see a lot more of him this year. Darnell Washington literally and figuratively took up so much space in the lineup. You also have Lucky as a true freshman that's in there too. Bowers has obviously got his spot, but is there one for Delp this year?
I think so. I mean, you see the dimension, 6'5", 225. He dresses bigger than that, though. He looks bigger, plays a little bit bigger, especially later in the season. You know, he was getting his, kind of sticking the face in the fan in some of those run blocking schemes. Coach Bobo, the coordinator, was in that tight end room last year, knows him well.
Beck looks around, another wide open player. It's McConkey, puts his foot in the ground inside the 10, first and goal, red team.
Well, you had to know that they were going to get it to Ladd eventually, right? And he just makes big plays. One of those guys that takes something that looks more razzle-dazzle and makes it, can look almost ordinary. I think that's become a welcome sight in this offense. And, of course, Carson Beck put it right on the money. He is 100% passing, 6 different receivers. Heck of a start.
An old familiar face. Savon Clark takes off, gets around the corner, and another red touchdown.
Number 20, Savon Clark.
Stiff arm from Clark. And Malachi Starks, he was coming up in run support, and he just got denied. Nice point of attack, able to collapse. You see Malachi Starks, he's there. He's the free hitter. He's not capable of making that play because Clark just stiff arms him. A little face massage.
Is that what that was?
Yeah. Through the face mask. That's what the visors are for.
Darius Smith had a chance at him too, and Clark, a hard runner, has been a special teamer the last couple of years, trying to fight for some playing time this year. Liam Badger makes another extra point. The Reds up 14-3 with 4:09 to go in the first quarter. It's G-Day in Athens. And we're back at the G-Day spring game. Big hit on Zeed Haynes near out of bounds. Week 9 in the XFL continues tonight on ESPN2 and ESPN Deportes with the Guardians taking on the Brahmas. Tomorrow afternoon, ESPN doubleheader starts in D.C. with the 7-1 Defenders hosting the Renegades. That's at noon, followed by a big one between the Sea Dragons and the Battlehawks, separated by one game in the north. Every game is also available on ESPN+, so Stinch can watch anywhere, except for when he's driving. Pass it over to Whit, let him watch. Happy birthday, Whit, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Gunnar Stockton is out there. We were talking about him at the beginning of the show, Stinch. Maybe he's got a crack at this with Beck and Vandegrift. Gives up a little bit of size. He's pressured, and he'll throw over to the sideline. He's 6'1", 210 pounds, 2-3 inches shorter than Vandegrift or Beck.
Yeah, a little bit of a different dimension, right? But this is a guy that, you know, as we mentioned earlier, Zion Logue, a couple of the other guys, defensively, they see him a lot, right? Running that scout team a season ago. And he does have that dual threat dimension, and maybe even a little bit more so than Vandegrift. Of course, you have to show that on the scout team a good bit more too, because things are breaking down. It's not designed to work in practice.
They always have lauded his accuracies. Roderick Robinson goes ahead for a few yards. I realize this is high school ball, but he was the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Georgia. 55 touchdowns, 1 interception in his senior year.
Pretty remarkable. I mean, just that level of efficiency and production, especially at that position where you're looking at it, and in that league that he was playing in, they all know, right? The defenses know you key in on the one guy, still couldn't slow him down. And it wasn't as if he's throwing to all elite players.
Over from Tiger, Georgia. Underneath throw, incomplete, and good coverage there too by A.J. Harris, who had Tyler Williams bottled up. So it's 4th down.
A couple times on that series, a short possession, shortest that we've seen in the game so far. A couple of pressures, able to get the edge, able to win right there at right tackle. They get edged late. Because of that, Gunnar Stockton got moved off his mark a couple of times.
Brett Thorson, remember that 75-yard punt he had last year against the Volunteers? Melbourne, Australia punter punts it deep to Dominic Lovett, the Mizzou transfer. First time he's touched the ball, they'll whistle him down just near the 30-yard line. Hey, Mr. Stinchcomb, you like the left tackle position. You were pretty good at it. How about the last 4 that have played for the Dogs that have gone on to greener pastures?
What a run. You know, Isaiah Wynn, incredibly versatile. Andrew Thomas, earmarked to be a great left tackle from the time he set foot on campus. And Jamari Salyer, more than anything else, the flexibility that he's shown than last year. You know, Broderick Jones able to put that exclamation point on his career here at Georgia. Just that one full season at left tackle, and Austin Blaske kind of double duty in it.
Blaske's in there now. We'll talk a little bit about him, Austin Blaske, as he follows Cash, or he blocks for Cash Jones. Blaske, number 58, the junior from Falkville, Georgia. There he is.
Another multiple versatile guy who can play multiple spots, play center and tackle. I think it's a weird combination. We talked to Cedric Van Pran Granger, and he was like, hey, man, this guy's over here arguing with me about calls because he knows them.
Yeah.
He knows what it's supposed to look like at center.
He was great on that. Delp gets a step, but lost it, looked like in the sun. It's shining down on him right now as Carson Beck's first incompletion. It's a good ball, though. It just, you know, it's like playing center field.
You nailed it. He clearly lost that ball because this is a catchable ball. You could see it, and he had left room for Beck to pull that ball down the boundary, a little bit outside his outside shoulder. But you're right, otherwise it was an unblemished passing performance for Carson Beck prior to that throw.
Gets back on track with an underneath throw. Caught by Dominic Lovett, that Mizzou transfer. Expected to have a big season for Georgia this year.
See it, left tackle there. Hands to the face, happens all the time, never gets called. Blaske does a good job of anchoring versus Darius Smith, one of those guys that Coach Schumann talked about it. He's got great length.
We watched Lovett go off against South Carolina last year when he played for Missouri, 148 yards receiving in that game. Beck throws the ball, and it's complete to Bell. Dylan Bell in traffic, too. Goes up and gets it for 30 yards.
Dylan Bell does a great job of playing this ball in the air. Carson Beck does a nice job of giving his receiver a chance. You see that Nyland Green just never locates that ball. Bell's able to come down with it. Nice completion.
Into the first quarter in Athens, Georgia. The red leads the black 14-3 on G-Day. Hey, it's ring time today for the 2022 national champions. Of course, they've gone back-to-back. What a new era it is in Athens, Georgia. Yeah, you're shaking your head over there. It's the hardest thing in the world to get the first one, to get the next one the next year. Cass Jones makes a catch, stays on his feet, gets inside the 20-yard line. Of course, we've seen some teams go back-to-back. That SC team, they didn't even play in the BCS National Championship game, so it should be an asterisk there. But Nebraska and Alabama deserve to be on that list. The last team to do it 3 straight years, trivia question. Who was it? You already know the answer.
I don't want to ruin it for the folks at home.
Golden Gophers.
The Gophers.
Yeah. Munson country.
Don't you know?
Isn't that true? Larry Munson country.
Yeah, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Straight ahead goes Cass Jones down to the 10-yard line, down to Miss Lang.
Yeah, guys, I know coming into this game, the offense is something that everybody obviously is interested in. That typically is how these things go when we're talking spring games. But I've been listening over to defensive coordinator Glenn Schumann and some of the things he's been coaching his guys up on. He's really hammering home technique, eye discipline. Hey, we got to recognize tempo, which they expect a lot, knowing that they want these quarterbacks to be challenged today. He's also really been getting on his linebacking group as far as being good communicators. Let's be clean, concise, uncomplicated communication, which is something that I think doesn't get a lot of credit throughout the offseason going into the regular season, right, in the SEC. You got to make sure those guys are communicating clearly.
No doubt. I mean, that's a big piece of it. You know, these guys, it's not just play the technique, et cetera. How do you play with one another? And whether or not they're on the same page, that's a big piece of it, too. You know, one of the guys that they talked about, Chaz Chambliss, we're talking about the outside linebacker room, the outside linebacker position. Obviously, the defensive backfield, leaders like Javon Bullard. Those guys have to be able to communicate throughout the defense. You want to be solid inside out. Your inside linebackers, great communicators. Your safeties, they should be excellent communicators.
Back over the middle, touchdown to Arian Smith. One rushing, one receiving for Arian.
The coaches talked about, we want to see the ball in the air. We want to be able to evaluate how these quarterbacks respond and react. I will say this, the protection when Carson Beck has been in there has been largely outstanding. That was a pristine pocket for him to work from. And he's able to find his target, Arian Smith, once again.
9 completions already for Beck, 3 extra points by Badger. And the Reds out front 21-3 here in the early going in the second quarter. The NFL draft is a couple of weeks. Those dogs you saw getting rings are getting ready for that. April 27th, 28th, and 29th. We'll have every pick once again on ESPN along with our usual expert analysis. It's available on NFL Network, and ABC's coverage focuses on the prospect's journey to the draft. All 3 days are also live on ESPN Deportes, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN app. You have no excuses. It's everywhere. Bulldogs projected in the first couple of rounds by Todd McShay. Jalen Carter going 5th to Seattle. Nolan Smith, a top 10 pick. Get back to that graphic in a second. Broderick Jones, also expected to be a first rounder. Nice rollout there by Stockton, finding Jackson Meeks. Darnell Washington, Keely Ringo, Alyssa also could be picked early.
At the back
Yeah, guys, I was chatting a little bit with Chris Smith down here before the teams ran out onto the field here for G-Day, and he's a player that you guys, we sat in the meeting rooms so many times last season, and every time he speaks about his football team, he's fired up. I said, how's the journey been for you? He's like, it's a little bit stressful. I'm ready for it to be over. I just want to know where my new home's going to be. Wherever that is, you're getting a hell of a player in Chris Smith.
I think you're getting a hell of a player in Lawson Lucky. He might be the next big tight end for the Georgia Bulldogs. Took a big hit there, but made that 22-yard completion from Vandegrift.
Vandegrift didn't flinch at all with the pressure oncoming. Of course, he knows he's clean. It's not easy to remember that. And Lawson Lucky, we talked about his toughness and his diligence. He passed up playing in one of those, victory lap type all-star games for these high schoolers. He wanted to stay here and practice with this program, and he made a very positive impression on his teammates.
Took a hit from Ja'Cory Thomas. Good catch by Meeks, and he's down. He's not down yet. He's fighting the whole red team all the way to the end zone. And they're going to give him a touchdown. It's 29 yards for the junior from Phoenix City, Alabama.
I like to finish. To wonder, what element of the rules, etc. Maybe they're waiting for a whistle here on their own teammate. How about the push, though? The entire offense is behind him to work his way into the end zone.
It's got to win brownie points with Mike Bobo, doesn't it?
Scrum, right? Cover down. Find a way to get your guy in the end zone. They were able to do it.
And the extra point by Zirkle gives the black team their first touchdown of the day. Vandegrift to Jackson Meeks, all effort by the wide receiver into the end zone. Back Savon Clark on the first play, gets tackled by Julian Humphrey behind the line of scrimmage. Number 99 is not out there for Georgia. Tom Van Haren of ESPN just tweeted out he confirmed with Georgia defensive lineman Bear Alexander that he's planning to enter the transfer portal. Of course, he was the number 56 overall prospect in the number 22, the 2022 class, and he was a contributor, Stinch, on this team last year.
A guy that definitely flashed at times as a true freshman. Kind of flipped even during his commitment. He was committed to Georgia, then he was committed to A&M, then he committed back to Georgia. You can see the fluidity, we'll call it, of these rosters. Today's the first day of the transfer portal. Will extend through the balance of this month. But fascinating, the timing of this. It'll be interesting to see what the impact will be, because we did hear about him in meetings yesterday, a guy that they think in the short area shows great burst, great quickness. Unsurprising given the level at which they recruit here at the University of Georgia. That's not necessarily separate and apart from these other guys, but what could be a special player that's entering the portal.
And I want to ask you more about the defensive line, because we just showed you Jalen Carter could be one of the first picks taken in the draft, as that back shoulder pass won't work. He was looking for Dylan Bell. It'll be third down. What do you make of Georgia's defensive front going into the year?
It's interesting. I agree with what Coach Trey Scott was talking about. These guys are going to have to play together. They're going to have to complement one another. You don't really have that anchor talent. You don't have a guy like a Jalen Carter who's a game wrecker. But do they have the pieces? They absolutely do. But that does change things a good bit when we lose a guy like number 88 from a season ago in Carter. It's not like you just plug and play.
Muse, who returned a kick for a touchdown, and Kirby Smart decided it didn't count. He returns a punt this time past midfield. Going back to that defensive line, Zion Logue is expected to be maybe the vocal leader of that defensive front. There's a lot of solid SEC players, maybe some of the best players in the SEC on the defensive front, because they're playing for the best program. But we still wonder who's going to emerge as a star, if you will.
No question. And from the inside out, and one of those players who was kind of earmarked for that, as you see big Zion Logue on the sideline. Thrilled that he doesn't have to swap jerseys on Field Goal Protect anymore. Big guy. Great anchor on the inside. especially versus run plays, but who was going to be that player that could change the pocket, especially in passing downs inside out?
Stockton dumps it off to Lucky, and Lucky's wrestled out of bounds. You know all his family members.
Yeah.
Of course, played with his dad. His dad was one of the triplets that played for the Dogs back in the Stinchcomb era. So he had a couple of Stinchcombs and 3 Luckies on the team.
Isn't that great? We all came into Georgia at the same time, the Lucky triplets. Heck, great football players. You know, Miles was the defensive lineman. His brothers, Mike and Dustin, were both linebackers. Moss's dad, Mike, he found his way onto the field earliest. He was really a hard-nosed inside linebacker. You can see some of those traits in Lawson Lucky, physical player at tight end.
Stockton hands it off to Roderick Robinson. He's a big, physical-looking tailback, 6 foot, 235 pounds, from Imperial, California.
Thick, thick on a 6-foot frame, right? You see a lot that's put on top of 6 feet. We've seen a couple of times he's done a good job of knocking that pile forward. You see him, I haven't seen him get knocked back, not a ton of touches. Obviously, this offense isn't going to have that. You're not ever going to have really a running back that's going to get a ton of touches in a game.
For Lincolnton High School, he had 8 rushing touchdowns against Mater Dei.
Wow.
How about that? Over 400 yards rushing in that game, too. Tyler Williams, another freshman, takes the football in this play.
How about casual, over 400 yards rushing in that game.
What a big deal.
It's a subtext. Tyler Williams, another long player out there, wide receiver, a lot of new faces there as well. You know, they talked about some of the departures that they've seen in A.D. Mitchell now with another program.
He was a basketball player too, Stinch, at Lakeland High School. They won the state championship in football, and a good basketball player. There's Miles Thornton banging off of defenders down to the 46.
And one of the things we said coming into this game, defensive physicality. And what does that look like? It's a little bit tricky in the spring game. But so far, I will say that especially when the Red offense has been on the field, the protection has been really, really strong. It's hard, of course, because they're not going to bring a ton of pressure looks. But the offensive front holding up relatively well with a couple of new faces, especially at those tackle spots.
See what Stockton does on a 3rd and 5. He's got time. He's going to throw the one-on-one ball, and that is perfect back shoulder to Zeed Haynes.
A.J. Harris in coverage, and you nailed it. Just so difficult to play it. So Gunnar Stockton lays it out here. He's playing the back shoulder of this throw. Does a great job of coming back for it. Turn around, can you locate this ball? Puts a lot of pressure on the secondary to make a play on that ball in the air.
Freshman from Philadelphia is Zeed Haynes. That ball is deflected off a defender. Tyler Williams, the intended target. Harris bounces back after giving up that pass and got his arm in on that one.
And we talk about how the quarterbacks handle some of these situations. Of course, they're pushing some of the new faces as well on the defensive side of the ball. And important position, of course, DB. How short, how long is your memory? Can you bounce back and play the next play? Don't let one play turn into 2.
Robinson carries the defense inside the 10. It's marked down at the 7. It'll be 1st and goal.
Robinson does a great job at getting downhill right now. We haven't seen him carry the ball a lot, but I really like the way he snugs up into those blocks. Finds those creases. It's not always an easy thing, especially for these running backs, to make the transition and realize the holes aren't a yard wide.
Yeah.
In fact, that little crease right there, that's the hole. Go hit it. It's hard to get guys to realize that. Robinson clearly grasping it early.
Robinson again. And you can tell the defense has had enough of these extra effort runs. Raylan Wilson fast defensive player. Stayed with that football perfectly, made the tackle.
I like him a lot as well. You know, that's one of those positions, though, crowded, right, and established as well.
Got him from Tallahassee, Florida. I remember Dave Aranda, who's now the head coach at Baylor, when he was at LSU, these spring games, he would say, it's just not fair. They don't let us make any tackles in this game. It's all offense. Got to be careful with these guys. Here comes the edge, and it's a touchdown run for Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar showing off that speed at 6'1", 210 pounds.
See Lawson Lucky crossing the formation, getting out there on the edge, and maybe a little tug there, right? Gets away with it in the spring game.
Yeah.
That was being observed to the official. Hey, Corey Thomas is like, you know, my jersey, the neck of it wasn't quite this stretched out just one play ago. Regardless, Gunnar Stockton finds his way in the end zone.
Black team mounting the comeback. Bad snap and hold, and the ball and the kick is no good by Zirkel. Thorson had some trouble with that snap. Here's Stockton going around the edge for a touchdown. It's 21-16 here in April. Well, what you missed was another great Brock Bowers catch that you've been seeing the last 3 years in Athens, Georgia. Analyzed perfectly by Matt Stinchcomb.
Look at this catch. I mean, that's his signature. That's what he does. He jumps up. It's like a pirouette's not a great enough word for it because he's far too brutal of a runner when he gets it. But it is one heck of an athletic way to come down with the ball. It's, you know, miraculous by sheer repetition ceases to be miraculous after a while. You're like, wow, an amazing catch. He does that all the time now, it seems like.
He's getting the Mackey Award today. Beck throws this one underneath, and it's caught by Cash Jones. Coach Mike Bobo's offense. It's interesting about the terminology. You know, you lose Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, who of course left the program, but none of the terminology is changing. You got a new quarterback, you get a new play caller, but none of the terminology is changing.
Yeah, which makes total sense given the success that they've had. You know, maybe one of the more important precepts offensively. Know thyself. What do you do well? What has worked for you? Well, this has. Of course, Coach Bobo will have his fingerprints on this offense. We talked to every single one of them, including Glenn Schumann, and said, you know, have you detected that much of a difference? It's like, it's really hard, not really. You know, there's certain situations where it feels more like some of the things we saw from Mike in the past. Of course, Coach Schumann, familiar with Mike Bobo as a play caller from when he was offensive coordinator at Georgia before, South Carolina, Auburn.
This is underneath, and it's caught by Dejon Edwards out of the backfield, and he gets inside the 35. Especially when you're so good at the line of scrimmage, Stinch, against most of the opponents that you play, you stay committed to this offense. And of course, this guy was calling the plays for a number of years for the Dogs before he went to be the head coach at Colorado State. Delp is incomplete, went there to Colorado State, then he went to Auburn and South Carolina. He was actually the interim head coach at South Carolina after Will Muschamp was fired there, and then he came back here with Will Muschamp, and now he's the offensive coordinator again. Did you get all that?
Grand circulation of water, man. It just kind of recycles itself. These coaches, they jump in there, and eventually it seems like you see the same ones popping up, and there's a reason for that. And these guys know what they're doing. It's interesting, you know, some of the questions in and around, you know, how will it look like? What will this offense look like? It's not like they didn't throw the football here the last time Mike Bobo was the offensive play caller.
Beck going deep, and lots of coverage there. Malachi Starks all over Dominic Lovett. There's the other boom, Will Muschamp, co-defensive coordinator for Georgia with Glenn Schumann. That defense was sensational each of the last 2 years, especially last year as he became the co-defense coordinator.
Those Raiders are now a permanent fixture on game day. Used to, they'd come on and off.
Yeah, when he was with the Gamecocks, he would sort of, they're called cheaters for a reason. but now they never come off. 51-yard field goal attempt for Liam Badger. Transfer from Kennesaw State. See what kind of leg he's got. Can he curl it in there? He can.
Wow.
Just a slight baby draw. He uses the wind to his advantage. And Georgia's red team now leads 24 to 16.
Yeah, break this down. You've been talking golf. You were at Augusta. Look at that thing just sneak in.
Well,
Wow.
listen, I mean, if you're going to play at the best courses in Georgia, you have to have a little baby draw. That's what Bob Jones always said. Got to be able to play it from right to left, and Badger did that perfectly.
Is Bob Jones the same as Bobby Jones?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I know he went to
Okay.
that other school in Atlanta, so I didn't.
Fair enough. Just want to make sure.
Just moved on
Same
from
guy.
that.
It's probably a commute issue. He didn't come on.
Connor Stockton's pass is to Denylon Morissette for a few. Our NBA playoff Game 1 quadruple header continues with the Knicks and the Cavs over on ABC at 8:30 tonight. We cap the day with the Warriors and the Kings. That should be fun. Both games are also streaming live on the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere.
Let's look at the XFL teams earlier. The Sea Dragons, are all the Seattle teams some type of like maritime reference? The Mariners, the Sea Hawks, the Sea Dragons. They're making up mythical beasts over there.
There is water in Seattle.
Yeah.
Denylon Morissette again, just short of the 40 at the 39-yard line. It is a busy sports calendar at this time of year with all the golf, NASCAR, hockey, basketball, and now, as you said, XFL football
Man,
to go along with all these spring games.
can't get enough. Can't get enough football, man. Year-round football. Spring football. XFL football. Playing baseball.
Did
in
an
New York.
XFL football game a few weeks ago, Stench, and it's amazing how many of these careers can be extended in that league now. Give you an opportunity to try to continue to play professionally as Roderick Robinson goes ahead to the 44-yard line. The XFL's had a terrific year this year in terms of how much attention and interest it's drawn.
A little situational football here, hurrying things up after picking up the first down under a minute to play.
1st and 10, Stockton throws and he steps into it perfectly to Muse, and he's off to the races inside the 20, getting some blocks down inside the 5.
How about Muse here in the first half? Now, a couple of them have been on returns that probably would have been whistled dead. Nice pocket this time, drives that ball in there. Like Terrell Foster might have been able to get a hand on it. Instead, Muse, boy, he's taking advantage of his opportunities here in the first half. Even created a few.
Sophomore from Grayson, Georgia, 54-yard completion there. Nearing the end of the first half here at the top of the hour on this G-Day spring game. Georgia winning the national championship in each of the last 2 years.
Delay of game.
There's a
Offense.
delay
Number 14.
Of game
5-yard
penalty here.
First
Interesting,
down.
Kirby Smart telling us yesterday that if you want to win a national championship, you can't think of anything that's happened prior to that. You have to think about what's in front of you. You're not defending anything. This team has not achieved anything yet. You have to have that sort of mindset if you want to do it again.
Yeah, he talked about that. Zion Logue, I think, brought it up where he said, look, you know, outside the guys in the first 4 rows, the rest of y'all haven't participated in championships. And the balance of that room, that balance of the room is gone. We don't get to keep these rosters year over year.
Well, they're going to give the defense the win on that one. Damon Wilson got to Stockton. And Kirby Smart says blow it dead. Wilson, the true freshman from Florida, from Venice High School. So now mark back at the 12, 25 seconds to go in the half. Stockton throws over the head of Jackson Meeks.
more opportunities here. They talked about this in practice even, where they ran, I think, 20 straight third down plays in a row. So here's 3rd and 11. A goal to go situation. Can you find a way to make a play right here? And can you be smart with the football as well? They talked about some of the boneheadedness of the quarterbacks. That is a word. Well, I'm getting some looks like I made it up. I think the coaches used it. Bottom line is be smart with the football, especially when you have a scoring opportunity at the end of the half.
We knew what you meant. Stockton, it's deflected and incomplete, almost intercepted. Jordan Hall got his hand on it. 4th down.
Should get their hands up. See Pemba's just kind of sitting in it. It was. Great job by Jordan Hall getting his hands up, deflecting that ball. You're right, almost intercepted.
With Bear Alexander entering the portal, maybe Jordan Hall is somebody that has a bigger role as a true freshman. This will be a 30-yard field goal try by Zirkel with 16 seconds to go in the half. (24-19) the score. Well, there haven't been many that have gone 15-0 or better since we've gone to this college football playoff structure as we've reached halftime. Yale, Penn, Clemson, LSU, they all did it. Clemson and LSU in consecutive seasons, and now Georgia does it in 2022. The red team leads the black 24-19 as we have reached halftime. As the 2023 team tries to put their own mark on college football history. And you see Alyssa with Coach Smart.
Coach, you wanted to see your quarterbacks challenge today. What did they show you so far?
Well, not much of a challenge from the defense. I can promise you that. They came out and they've thrown the ball well. We've caught the ball well. I don't think we've had a turnover yet. So when you don't turn it over and you're efficient on offense, you usually score points. We've really been explosive today. The question today has been about the defense.
What do you need to see more of from them here in the second half?
From the defense? Stops. We got to get stops. And you only get stops when you have stops on first down. We're not getting stops on first down. We're not getting them behind the sticks, so they're just going down the field. I think the offense is doing a nice job keeping them off balance.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Defensive man wants to see that side of the ball improve in the second half. Offenses look good on both sides. Red leads the black 24-19. And the second half is underway with the black team running it at the red team. Roderick Robinson running it for a first down. There is your quarterback comparison so far. We've seen a little bit of Vandegrift, but Beck and Stockton attempted the most passes there in the first half.
Yeah, look at Carson Beck's stats. I mean, that's pretty sporty right there. And you think about one of those was an Oscar Delp, kind of lost it in the sun, as you see Carson Beck visiting with Javon Bullard over there on the sideline. But Beck hit 9 different receivers. Just crazy efficient. Part of it's because the protection has been outstanding.
Roderick Robinson making the catch. As Alyssa is going out there to get a quick word with the head coach here in just a second. Here she is.
All right, Coach, as we're starting the second half here, Gunnar Stockton on the field, what are the things that you are looking at when your QB's out here?
Well, I want to hear them communicate. You know, they're talking to the running back, talking to the tight end, making sure everybody's lined up. We may have a motion or adjustment, so I like to see them handle that. We got a little boundary pressure here coming at Gunnar. Let's see how he handles it.
Gets it out of there quickly.
Quick, good.
Yep.
Got a completion. It's another completion for us. That's good. But I like seeing them interact with the players, you know. We don't do a lot of huddling, so you don't get to see them talk in a huddle, but you get to see them talk once he gets the signal. So right now he's looking over to get the signal, and we get to see how he interacts with the players after that.
Coach Bobo was talking about how much pressure you guys have put on these guys to build in that leadership category. How do you coach a guy to be more of an effective communicator?
Well, we have a lot of meetings, and we ask kids to stand up and talk in our skull sessions, and they get kind of comfortable talking in front of a group. And we found that if you will talk in front of a small group, eventually you'll talk in front of a big group, you know? And we try to get them to do that. So, oh, good play right there. Lord. Freshman right there, Joe Nell. It's a great play by him. He's a really physical player.
I was going to say, defense looked a little better there, huh?
At least that play, you know. Now we got a second long. It's the first time we've had them behind the chains. You know, when you think about it, the offense is 1 first down most of the scrimmage. There's 21 mid-years out here, so it's really cool to watch a kid play his high school season, and he's out here playing at Sanford Stadium, you know, 3-4 months later.
How about big number 7 right in front of us? Lucky, your new tight end. Georgia fans are really excited about him. What have you seen from him today?
He's toughness. He's got, you know, a dad that played here. He's one of the toughest guys I've been around as far as playing football. He does a really good job of that, so it's fun to be around him. I tell you, he's a kid that took advantage of, he didn't go play in all these all-star games. He just said, I'll stay here and practice with the Georgia Bulldogs. So he had 15 to 20 practices of semifinals and the finals game that he practiced with our team. So he's so much further ahead.
Yeah, I have to imagine that size helps y'all prepare for playoff and national championship as well, right?
Yeah, he was a really good player during that time, too. He was a scout team tight end, and all the older players were like, dang, who is this dude?
Throughout spring in this game today, is there anyone else who has jumped out at you and really impressed you for their play so far? No, you're good, Coach. Coach got a coach. We're going to let him go for a second.
Well, we've had several guys jump out. I don't like singling anybody out, but we've got that group of 21 young players has been incredible. They have been so hard practicing. A couple guys we got out of the portal. You know, Ra-Ra's made some plays in the spring, and so has Dom Lovett. They've done a really good job for us. So there's a bunch of guys, and today's a chance for them to showcase that.
You know, someone who seems to have popped today so far is Mekhi Muse. I mean, the speed he's got, certainly on special teams, feels like that's going to be a big piece for y'all.
I tell people all the time, Mekhi Muse has made more plays on the scout team the last 2 years against great defenses. Now, great defenses. He's gone out there and made a bunch of plays, and he's paying off today because he plays every day against one of the best defenses in the country, and he's not afraid to go out there and play right now, and he's done a great job. He's really an explosive guy.
One more thing before I let you go, Coach. We were talking yesterday about how some head coaches talk about maybe wanting to get an FCS opponent or someone else to play during the spring, but you were pretty adamant, and this gets us more reps across our roster. Why is that so helpful for you guys right now?
Well, you got to play a lot of guys to get better, and we're playing 44 guys kind of back and forth. I mean, only 22 at a time, but a lot of guys are getting to start. There's 44 starters in this game. When you play somebody else, like a lot of our the other guys want to do, you get less of that. So I like the depth we have. I like the work we get when we get to do it.
Coach, I appreciate the time and the access. Enjoy the rest of the scrimmage today.
Awesome. Thank you guys for the coverage. We love it.
Yeah, we do too. That was terrific, both of you there. I have a question for you, Alyssa. What is it like having Ty Ingram Dawkins running at full speed right at you?
Pretty terrifying, but when you're on the sidelines in the SEC, you kind of get used to it, honestly. Head on a swivel all the time.
A lesser athlete would have been intimidated. Alyssa doesn't even flinch. Just a small sidestep.
I went to
and then
Orange
continue with
Theory
the
this
interview.
morning. I was ready.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, dialed in then, clearly. Yeah, you were kind of in the fray a couple of times.
Brock Vandegrift comes back in at quarterback and swings it out there to the sideline to Dom Lovett. And there is why Coach Smart likes the mid-year enrollee from Mizzou, who picks up 20.
He's no doubt a playmaker. They talked about his ability to not only stretch the field vertically, but also to play out of the slot, as we just saw. And was able to break that tackle, undercut the arm tackle of Nyland Green. It's a long target, guy with speed, nice top end speed, but also somebody can get the ball too quickly.
Plenty of time to survey the field, almost picked off. It is. Tyke Smith makes the pick.
Well, Coach Smart was talking about how where are the takeaways? We hadn't seen one. There it is. Tyke Smith, guy's able to climb the ladder. He's largely been hampered with injury. Just been a little bit more limited in the way he can impact this defense underneath that route. Great job of high pointing that football, coming down with it for the first takeaway of the afternoon. Quick change. We talk about nice clean pocket. Wasn't like there was a pressured throw. And coming out of half, we were saying, you know, when you look at most of the throws have been Gunnar Stockton and Carson Beck. Vandegrift hasn't had a ton of opportunity to air it out. And now with the turnover in the passing game.
Let's see if Smith can make the big jump at Georgia in his senior season. Nice slant on a bullet there. Caught by Andrew Correa. 11-yard completion. Five minutes and 45 seconds to go in the third quarter with the red leading the black 24-19. Now Stockton throws upstairs, incomplete. Kirby never stops coaching. This is just a second ago with Jamal Jarrett, the true freshman from Greensboro, North Carolina.
He's saying, you know, look, you got more power. You can't have your hands wide like that. I want you to shock the guy inside out. Get your hands inside so you can maintain separation. You got more power that way. He's saying, look, you're grabbing, you're latching. That's almost like an offensive lineman in panic mode. You can't do that up front as a defensive lineman.
Grant Briscoe makes the catch.
You see him kind of trying to play off that block. Gets washed down a little bit. Pad level's a big thing, especially with players that haven't seen a ton of reps. You don't want to pop up out of your stance and play high. You want to be able to play low with leverage. A guy that's got a lot of football still in front of him.
Stockton has that one batted down at the line of scrimmage.
It's Jordan Hall. I think it was Jordan Hall again.
It's the second time he's done that.
Yeah. Great job. If you're collapsing the pocket, get your hands up in the passing lane. It is. Working against a double team. And of course, the coaching point up front for those offensive linemen is you got to give those defensive linemen a reason to not want to do that. As soon as a guy gets his hands up, as soon as he tries to jump, you have to tip him over. Basically dump him, make him not want to do that. A couple of batted balls right there in the middle. Gunnar Stockton in there. We talked about stature. I wonder if height plays an issue. You got to find those throwing lanes.
Punting on fourth down. And it's caught just outside the 5-yard line. Beautiful breezy day in Sanford Stadium for the defending national champions. Welcome back to ESPN College Football presented by Progressive. We're at the G-Day spring game. Brock Vandegrift completing it to Dylan Bell. Russ Moore, our spotter, is having his head on a swivel today. Has Vandegrift and Stockton played for both teams? Stockton's played for one of the guys who's played for both teams so far. That was Vandegrift. Okay, there you go. He switched teams. He was on the black, just played for the red. Now here he is again. I like that, the in-game trade.
Love it. Man, we talk about roster fluidity.
Welcome to 2023. Vandegrift, quick throw. This complete to C.J. Smith. Boy, the Dogs have a bunch of wide receivers they're trying out for playing time in 2023, don't they?
They're spreading the ball around quite a bit when you think about it. The looks that they're getting out wide, guys are getting their touches.
He played in a couple games last year against Samford and Auburn. Nearing the end of the third quarter. And this handoff goes to Cash Jones, and Jones has nowhere to go. It's going to be a loss on the play for a couple. You can tell the defense got the message. What Kirby Smart saluted, he talked to Alyssa, he saluted Brock Bowers, then he went into the locker room for about 4 minutes. The paint peeled off the wall as he talked to the defense, and they received the message loud and clear in the third quarter.
Yeah, you're allowed to play too. It did feel at times in that first half where you're like, this defense looks a little indifferent. There's no doubt that they've certainly amped up the effort, not just with the takeaway.
Vandegrift, incomplete to CJ. What have you seen from the quarterbacks today, Stench?
Well, I do think that, we talk about Carson Beck. He's looked good. and he's done an excellent job, I think, operating. Now, I will say it does seem like it's been a lot of an easier operating environment. It's been cleaner, working with the ones. And we talked about he is the most experienced and, of course, has got a ton of reps, even in season, previous years. That's probably the first procedure penalty we've seen.
Black team's offsides, free play. It's intercepted. It's not going to count, though. Javon Bullard made the grab.
And you're all right with that decision, right? You know, push the ball downfield, take a shot, free play, as you mentioned. Good job getting the defense
Offside.
into the neutral zone.
Defense in the neutral zone at the snap. 5-yard penalty.
Warren Brinson.
Replay third down.
A bit early. Working opposite Cedric Van Pran Granger. Look at him just sitting in there. Big Ced, we met with him yesterday. He's a great leader. Boy, Kirby Smart was effusive in the leadership qualities that he has in his center that returned and wanted to come back. Said he wants to be a first-round draft pick. Wanted to solidify that element. Didn't want to have any question marks coming out of this program.
That's up in traffic and incomplete. Tried to thread it in there to Braxton Hicks. It'll be fourth down. And if Beck does have an advantage, at least he's got some experience, right? Playing in a bunch of games last year in 7 of them. The East has a ton of fresh faces at quarterback. You think about it, Kentucky, Tennessee, they'll have a new quarterback. Florida will have a new quarterback this year.
Vanderbilt's always a question mark. It's almost never they go wire to wire. Missouri seems to be a bit of a revolving door at quarterback as well. There's not a lot of known commodities at the QB position coming into this season. I mean, other than, you know, maybe a South Carolina is probably the team in this conference where they're like, okay, you know, we know what we have
Spencer
here.
Rattler.
Spencer Rattler, and the way he finished the season, which was, it was kind of a schizophrenic performance from Spencer Rattler a season ago.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, and then of course Alabama is going after a place a quarterback. Bryce could be the first player selected in the draft by the Carolina Panthers. C.J. Stroud is on that Panther board as well. Anthony Richardson. Scouts are in love with the size and the stature of the former Florida quarterback. Handoff on the last play of the third quarters. We go to the fourth in the annual G-Day game. Perfect weather to play this game today. Unveiling a new UGA in Boom and looking for who the next stars for the Georgia Bulldogs are going to be. It's the red and the black for one more quarter, coming back in just a moment. Celebrated all over this great city. Never forget the legacy of the late, great Vince Dooley. Red leads the black 24-19 as the fourth quarter has just started. 3rd and 8 for Georgia. And the black team, Carson Beck, was playing for the red. Now he's playing for the black. Now he's got a free play. And he just throws it away. He's definitely looked the best of all the quarterbacks so far today, and that's the question I think that all Georgia fans have is who will our quarterback be in 2023?
Yeah, and I don't know that we're going to find that out today, right? That coach has made that very clear. Hey, look, this is not a bookend to this evaluation, but it is an input, right? They wanted to see how they would operate. Coach Smart was talking about that earlier. I want to hear how these guys communicate. How do they handle adversity? Carson Beck hasn't experienced a lot in this game, frankly. It's part of the reason why you go into halftime and charge your defense up. Hey, guys, let's see if we can't create a little bit of challenge here and there. And so, of course, Carson Beck in there playing with the black offensive front, the black team, a little bit of different unit.
Man, that was a good ball right there to Tyler Williams, a good-looking true freshman from Lakeland, Florida. Had a little zip on that one.
And well placed, right? You put it right in front of him, run through the catch. It's the yards after the catch here. You're going to pick up another 7-8 yards. Took him all the way across the field to get there. It's not just completing the ball, right? It's putting the ball in a place where your receiver, your playmaker can do something with it.
Back to the air, a little dump off underneath to Anthony Evans III, the freshman from Converse, Texas. Well, these were the storylines coming in with Beck Vandegrift and Stockton. And then the defensive physicality, you can add Bear Alexander's name to this second line,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, another guy that you got to potentially replace. Physicality much better defensively here in the second half. And of course, among the newcomers, you think Dominic Lovett hasn't gotten a ton of touches. The guy that stands out is Lawson Lucky more than anybody else. Jonel Aguirre had a big hit earlier in the third quarter. We heard about him a lot. He's not going to get a lot of looks because of that position, the depth that they have at their star position. But they're saying number 8 and Aguirre might be one of the best prospects to fill that role that they've had in a long time defensively.
The Kirby and Alyssa show was terrific, but while they were doing their broadcast, that guy right there made a big play. That kind of stood out to me today is, wow, that guy's new. He's only 18 from Massachusetts, too.
Player of the year up there in Massachusetts.
Beck put it on the numbers there to Williams. He couldn't make the grab.
That time Julian Humphrey got a hand in there to break it up. Beck getting an opportunity to work with a different set of skill players. It's always interesting they're adding to these evaluation, right? Each rep is accumulating towards something, an ultimate decision. The other piece of it too is how do these receivers, how do the other complementary players, especially in the passing game, you can't throw it to yourself. How do these receivers operate with different respective quarterbacks?
This is Brett Thorson punting. Go into the end zone. Henry Bates had a phenomenal punt last time, by the way. Give him a shout out. That went 53 yards. The spring football season is going to wrap up next Saturday with LSU's National L Club spring game at 2 Eastern. Alabama's A-Days at 3 Eastern. Both are on SEC Network Plus and ESPN Plus. Your first look at next season's teams before the fall. To get SEC Network Plus, go to secnetwork.com or download the ESPN app. No doubt in my mind that Georgia is the top team to beat in the SEC with what they have returning and talent-wise and with their schedule in 2023. Oklahoma fell off of the schedule when they decided to enter the conference, so the schedule is more manageable than it would have been had the Sooners been on it. But over in the West, Stinch, I just read this promo. Would you rather be LSU, would you rather be Alabama, or is it someone else you think you have to go through in the West?
Yeah, I think that ultimately with the returners that they have, you would like to say LSU. LSU had a really kind of a weird year a season ago.
Good ball there, complete to Arian Smith, who has they marked that incompletion, though. He dropped it. There's the UGA schedule. They don't play LSU or Alabama. UT Martin, Ball State at the beginning of the season. See the Florida game highlighted. I got to tell you, I think that Georgia will be a considerable favorite in every single one of those games. If the class of the Big Ten is once again who we think it is, to me, the game of the year in college football, holy moly, what a hit. That is a big one made by number 6, Everett. That's Dalen Everett with the hit. I think the game of the year in college football could be Georgia-Ohio State in the playoffs again. Now, I know it's hard to get there, but given how talented Georgia is, how much better Ohio State has been than most of the Big Ten, could see that matchup again, and that was the game of the year this past year.
Oh, my gosh, that was the national title game, right? De facto. We all saw that in the Peach Bowl and the playoff. That was the best game, most tightly contested, unbelievable finish. Obviously, from Georgia's perspective, a great one. See ultimately a sack there. Slower developing, getting that ball out after the big hit by Everett. But you're right, it does seem like those programs could easily be on a collision course. Now the big question will be, like Joe Milton, the quarterback at Tennessee, is he a guy that can step in? Can they pick up where they left off? They lost talent, especially at receiver. So the question is, in the East race, who can contend, right? And who is it? South Carolina in that third or fourth week of the season. The way that they finished, they're stealing wins versus teams who are like, my goodness. Clemson had a quote-unquote down year. For Clemson, they had a down year. Ultimately, losing that game to South Carolina, beating a Tennessee team.
At the beginning of this game, Dalen Everett played for the red team And at some point during the game, Coach Schumann said, go over and play for the black. That was the reason for my hesitation, is because the black team didn't have a number 6 when the game started. But everybody knows who Dalen Everett is. He was terrific last year. How about this big hit that leads us to break? Red. We welcome you back to ESPN College Football, presented by Progressive. Hard to beat this campus and this city with this program. The Georgia Bulldogs, back-to-back national champions. Red leads the black 24-19 currently. 5.5 minutes to go until the end. Gunnar Stockton at quarterback throws it to the bench. The NFL draft is in a couple of weeks, April 27th through the 29th, all 3 of those days. Every pick, once again, is on ESPN, along with the usual expert analysis. You also can get it on NFL Network, and ABC's coverage focuses on the prospects' journey to the draft. All 3 days are also live on ESPN Deportes, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN app. Dogs littering the draft once again this year, particularly the first round, just like they did last year. And how did they respond? They won the national championship. Stockton hands it off to Miles Thornton, to Roderick Robinson, and he's at midfield. Stinch, I don't know that talent is going to be a problem for Georgia. Leadership. Who's going to emerge, as Coach Smart said, as the voices of this team? Might be one of the biggest questions Dogs fans have.
Yeah, and we talked about a little bit earlier the leadership, the captaincy that he's already secured that they have at center. Yeah. Right? Big Cedric Van Pran Granger is a guy that, not just a great football player, but a guy who's not scared to hold his teammates accountable and whose comments they respect. You see flushed out of the pocket is Gunnar Stockton once again.
Damon Wilson.
A guy that we heard his name mentioned a lot. This is another one of these newcomers. A lot of them where back-to-back we're seeing young players emerge at the outside linebacker position where they're probably going to be specific as they won inside. Nice inside move that time by Wilson. But the leadership piece of it, big Cedric. The big leadership piece of this more than anything else, they talked about last year, the X factor was how connected this team was and the relationships that they had. All teams want to talk about that. Chemistry is something that we kind of throw around, but clearly it was very intentional here and somewhat unique apparently last season. And that, not that they lacked it, but they didn't have it maybe to the extent that they had this past season. You need strong leadership in the locker room to establish that.
You had it with Stetson Bennett on offense. You had it with Nolan Smith, who, if he came up here, he would take our headsets away. I mean, he's got that kind of charisma.
Yeah.
Plenty of time for Vandegrift to throw, incomplete.
So that's just not easy to plug and play. And you want your best players to be your leaders ideally, right? You want the guys that are out there playing, the guys that are making an impact on the game to be your leaders. And quarterbacks, Carson Becks, the Brock Vandegrifts, the Gunnar Stocktons. Mike Bobo was talking about, hey, I don't want to see you sitting with the same guys all the time at chow time. You need to be mixing it up. Your teammates need to know you.
Yeah.
And that's smart. That's good advice. And it has to be authentic. It can't be something that's forced. Guys know that.
Nice move by Cash Jones to get up the field near a first down marker. Well, Kirby Smart highlighted a bunch of the new faces, the newcomers that were playing high school ball not so long ago, especially Lawson Lucky. But here are some experienced names that stuffed the stat sheet today. Arian Smith got in the end zone 2 different ways. Tyke Smith with a pick. Carson Beck was terrific at quarterback. Here's another end around to Smith. He scored a touchdown on that play earlier in the game, not this time. Down to Alyssa.
You guys were just talking about the leadership aspect for this Georgia football team, and I think based on our meetings yesterday, there should be no ifs, ands, or buts about the fact that there is still motivating leaders in that Georgia locker room, because we asked Cedric Van Pran Granger about hey, how did Nolan Smith or Kirby Smart manage to convince your team that you guys were actually going to only win 7 games last year? And he kind of freaked out. He was like, no, that was true. They were saying that about us.
He tried to argue with us.
Social media and TikTok. And then he said, and then I was leaving class, and there was this guy, Tennessee week, with a table outside my classroom. And the table, there was a sign on the table, and it said, tell me why Tennessee's going to beat the brakes off of Georgia this year. And I was like, oh, that was Paul Feinbaum doing his weekly segment, trying to get y'all fired up. The fire in his eyes when we brought that up, that they genuinely thought that, and I guess there were. We are sitting here going, I can't believe someone actually picked that team to
He
only
said he
win
was an
7
underdog.
games.
He said Georgia was an underdog in that game to Tennessee. Not according to the handicappers.
I'd like to know the media member who actually said that.
Oh, it's picked off the carom by Raylan Wilson to the house. That ball went through Anthony Evans, and Wilson ran into the end zone with it.
All right, a couple of takeaways now here in the second half. Coming in hot. See, maybe takes the eyes off a little bit. Like maybe Evans was looking for the big hit, and instead, Raylan Wilson going the other way. We talk about, his play. He had a nice tackle, low red zone earlier this half. Now a pick 6 in the spring game. But yeah, it was funny, going back to what Cedric was talking about, where he was like, look, that was not brainwashing. People were out there. He was ready to fight, probably a little bit extreme, but he got his hair up a little bit about it. That's for sure.
He said TikTok said we were going to go 7-5. I can't debate him there because not allowed by my family to use that, thankfully.
For the protection of all involved, you can't have TikTok.
Week 9 in the XFL continues tonight on ESPN2 and ESPN Deportes, with the Guardians taking on the Brahmas. And tomorrow afternoon's ESPN doubleheader starts in D.C. with the 7-1 Defenders hosting the Renegades, who can lock up a playoff spot with a win at noon Eastern, followed by a big one between Matt Stinchcomb's Seattle Sea Dragons and the Battlehawks, separated by 1 game in the North. Evidently Stinch is cheering against A.J. McCarron in St. Louis. Every game is also available on ESPN+.
Boy, the Sea Dragons, do they have a live mascot?
If they did, then that would be
That'd be crazy, huh?
worldwide breaking news.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm a big Battlehawks guy. My man Anthony Becht is the head coach.
Yes,
over
he
there.
is. Yeah. One of our former colleagues. Vandegrift gets out of bounds past the 30 with just over 2 minutes to go in the game.
Interesting afternoon for Brock Vandegrift, right? It wasn't as clean as he would have wanted it, I'm sure. Some throws back, of course. The pick earlier that Tyke Smith came down with, and wasn't always able to operate behind a clean protection. And so I do think it's a little bit trickier from an eval standpoint.
It's also tricky because he's played for a different team 3 different times.
Yeah, that's true. We don't even know. You got to look in there and make sure who is in a quarterback right now.
It's kind of like the backyard all-time quarterback deal. Oh, it's another ball that's deflected. Goes off of Roderick Robinson.
Talking about as a receiver, we're talking about McIntosh and his absence now, the role that he played in the receiving game as a running back. Here's this ball. You got to make that catch, right? Catch that ball, Karam's up. Not only did you not make the catch, but you can't tip the ball up when you're over the middle. It's when everyone holds their collective breath, because that's easily a pick, and a lot of times a pick going the other way.
He's got plenty of time, slings it out complete to Muse again. What a game he's had today. Didn't even count one of his kick returns for a touchdown. It's a completion of 18 yards.
That's true, yeah, he got cheated on that one, didn't he? Did all that running.
Coach Smart wanted to see how the team looked on offense. Cole Spear, the intended receiver there. My man, Mr. Kevin Maloney's been keeping track of the stats. 23 different guys have caught passes today. How about that?
Goodness. Well, that was another one of those positions where coming into it, we said outside linebacker, obviously quarterback, and then receiver. And what has been interesting, you know, we haven't seen, you know, a Ra Thomas in here, of course, but Dominic Lovett, where you know, they haven't really tried to target him. I think he just has the one target in this game.
Flushed throws, and they're going to whistle him as being tackled in the backfield by Jonathan Jefferson.
Timeout block.
Check that. 4 targets for Lovett, 2 catches. So they're able to get him some looks.
Defense has definitely looked better in the second half than they did in the first. We had it was 24-19 at halftime. Just 7-0 in the second half.
Yeah, markedly different effort, no doubt, defensively. You know, they came out slinging it, pushing the ball downfield. Offense, little resistance defensively. It's been a different story here in the second half.
It's 3rd and 12. Vandegrift throws, and it's incomplete to be 4th down.
This class of quarterbacks, they each were born to take this stage. Only question is, which team believes enough to take them? The NFL Draft begins April 27th on ESPN and ABC.
Shout out to my guy Aaron Murray. Alyssa might have to confirm this, but we did a game together last year while you were watching one of your daughters win, or maybe both of your daughters win a state championship. I think Mr. Murray might owe me a meal if Bryce Young is the first pick in the draft.
Oh, okay. You
Yep.
made it interesting, did we? Yeah, the other candidate, right, is C.J. Stroud. A lot of people talking about him. And the knock has to be with Bryce is just build, right? The stature that he brings to the position. How
There's
about that?
Lucky again. Good grab down inside the 35 to the 34.
It's been consistent all game long. I mean, they tried to give him the ball first play of the game, right? Took a big shot, bounced right back. First play of the game anyway for the black team offensively.
Now the home run ball. Let's see if he can get it incomplete, but a flag down. Meeks got tangled up with Julian Humphrey.
Pass interference. Defense number 12. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
Ball was up there for a while. You can see Humphrey. Really, he was ended up getting kind of thrown. He got olayed. I'm not so sure Humphrey initiated a ton of that contact. Second DPI that we've seen in this game on a deep shot.
Vandegrift into traffic, and it's incomplete with 1:02 to go. Good.
Trying to get to our guy Muse.
Aguero got in there again. A great player out of Massachusetts.
Look at that, 205 pounds. That's the piece that really jumps out, right? 5'11", but that's some size in a guy that will strike you. They mentioned that a couple times. We saw this in practice where this guy will absolutely come up and stick you. And that's something that they covet for sure. Not only does he have range, he's also one of those guys that can make his presence felt. Lewis Seam, they said.
Yeah. Oh, nice grab there by Muse. To get down to the 10-yard line. Yeah, Aguero's got, he'd make the late, great Mr. Munson have some things to say about him as a freshman. Muse again, why not? He deserves it. What a game he's had today. Great throw by Vandegrift to catch him in stride.
So look at Muse, looks like he might be a little gassed. He's done a little bit of everything today, and you mentioned it. This is to Muse earlier, great job, a little bit behind him. This time Vandegrift puts it right on the money. Good placement. Able to run, turn, catch, score. Muse today, that's a pretty sporty line for him. 4 catches, 91 yards, and a tud. And, as you mentioned earlier, right, Taylor? He had a kickoff return for
He
a
did,
touchdown.
yeah.
I mean, it's
Coach Smart wanted to see that offense play on that drive, so he didn't allow it to count. You can do those sort of things in the spring. Trade players in the middle of the game. Decide where the ball starts. I do like this, though. Coach Bobo was saying this the other day, and so was Coach Schumann, that it's great to have these, 2-minute drills and do a bunch of situational stuff during the spring and all your practices with those scrimmages, but they've called the rest of the game, by the way. We're done. 31-26 the final. Playing a real game against the best team in the country, playing against each other, is extremely beneficial to your team.
Yeah, no question. You heard him. He's not. Coach Smart's not interested in really playing somebody else because he knows the level of competition he can get from his own team. One of the toughest teams Georgia faces is in practice. This is a game scenario.
No one has won 3 straight national championships in almost 90 years. Minnesota did that. That's what's in front of Georgia in 2023. Labor Day weekend, the Dogs will be here in Sanford Stadium against UT Martin. Who will the starting quarterback be? Who will the new stars that'll emerge during the season for Georgia and Coach Kirby Smart? For Tom Schofield, his entire production team, for Alyssa Lang and Matt Stinchcomb, I'm Taylor Zarzer. So long from G-Day in Sanford Stadium.